And welcome back to the OHO podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Buckeye Boggs. That man over there, that's the wild man, Chris Wilds. And you are you, and we're thankful that you decided to join us for our big Ohio State versus Oregon preview, Chris. This is a big show. We've got a guest to bring on here shortly. We've got some history with Oregon, and these are the two best teams in the Big Ten, just like we thought, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, you called it, Eric. These are the two best teams in the Big Ten by far. I don't even think there's a close third.
Penn
So
State, maybe?
I'm not sold yet. I'm
Okay.
still not sold on Penn State. I mean, at least with Oregon, you got a team that's got at least a ranked win under their belt. Yeah, it hasn't always been the prettiest, but they've gone out there and they've done what we expected them to do for the most part. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not as dominantly, but they have done it.
A little bit of a slow start, but they've turned the corner, and Dylan Gabriel's doing well for him, although he did throw 2 picks against Michigan State last week in
Three
the
in the
red
last
zone.
two games.
So, there is that, but they are playing better. Their offensive line, they've got some guys back on their offensive line, which Adam's going to talk about. So that was a big deal for them. But Chris, it is 7:30. It is prime time kick on NBC. Are you happy about this game being on NBC?
This is the thing for me. I'm having a hard time with the transitioning to the different networks. And it's not so much that it's on a different channel, but the announcers, man.
Yeah.
I struggle with the announcers.
Okay.
I may not personally like Joel Klatt, but man, I love hearing Klatt and uh, oh, I know his name,
Gus.
Gus Johnson. Yeah, I love hearing those two guys call the game. If they're not calling it, honestly, typically I turn on the radio and listen to the radio call while I watch the TV.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So, anyways, that's kind of what I thought you would say. NBC's kind of we're getting used to them. They feel so Notre Dame-ish to me, still.
Well, they do, just like the CBS guys are all SEC, and
SEC,
you have that feel.
yeah, yeah. Last 10 games, it's a 10-game series to be exact. We've played them 10 times. Won the first 9 in a row, going all the way back to the 1950s. Um, that 2015 game was in Arlington, Texas, was for the national championship. You'll notice the first time we played them was in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl in 1958. Played them again in Pasadena again in 2010 in the Rose Bowl. Won that one as well. All the other games were in Columbus except for one. That was 1967. We flew out to Eugene. And of course, the 2021 game in Columbus was the last time we played them, and that was the 35-28 loss to the Ducks. Looking at by the numbers here, again, Ohio State leads the series 9-1. That 2021 loss, 35-28, was the last time we played them. 67 was the trip to Oregon. That was a 30-0 win for the Buckeyes. That was our largest margin of victory over them, and of course for them, 2021 was their largest margin of victory over us because that was their only large victory over us. The streak of 9 in a row, which happened at the first 9 games, was from 58 to 2015. Of course, they own the most recent game. Ryan Day's record against the Ducks is 0-1. This will be Dan Lanning's first opportunity to play against Ohio State. Any thoughts about Dan Lanning going up against the Buckeyes here?
Well, I think we're finally going to get a chance to see just how good he is. It's real, and I don't mean to sound disparaging, but it's real easy to beat up on the Pac-10 schools. Um, it's real easy to beat up on also rans. But you know what? You're playing a big time program. You like to boast about how good you are. Now you can go out and prove it.
Yeah. So this is going to be a very interesting game. We're going to dive into a little bit more, but first, let's go ahead and bring on our guest, Adam. Great interview from the Quack 12 podcast, our sister podcast over at the College Huddle. So he's a good dude. He's a fun guy, and as you're about to find out, he's a little nervous about this game against the Buckeyes in Eugene. So we're gonna go to Adam, and then we'll be right back after that, and we'll wrap this thing up and talk about our predictions. And welcome back to the OHIO podcast, everybody. As you can see, I'm joined by my special guest, Adam, from the Quack 12 podcast. Still have not changed the name to the Big 12 or the Quack Big Quack podcast. I think that's what the way you should go. But
Big
hey,
Quack,
man,
that's good. That's good. It still feels so new, man. I
yeah.
can't believe it. It's still just unbelievable that we're in this conference so far away. But it's been fun, I gotta say.
Well, I mean, you showed a duck right off the bat there, and I mean, as a university, mad props to you guys for the whole duck thing going out to like all the major
Yeah,
waterways in the Big Ten. like like
yeah.
tip of the hat. That was good, guys. Game represents game, man. I got you. I thought that was pretty good, man. So
I like a lot of places got money to spend on advertising. It's fun that they do it in creative ways. To
yeah,
make a big splash. I do like that. Yeah.
like duck, big splash. I get it. Well done, though. That was nice. That was nice. So let's just start there, man. So far, man, in the Big Ten, had a couple Big Ten games under your belt now. How you guys feeling about this transition?
Overall, I feel good. I mean, with all the chaos in general with college football, like Washington playing Rutgers seems less crazy when you also have Stanford and Syracuse playing a conference game. Like it's all becoming the new kind of norm, and Pac-12's adding what Tulane or whatever if they can get them. It all feels so crazy that the actual space doesn't feel like much of a factor anymore. Some of the things that kind of bleeding into our everyday lives is, I assumed when we play a Big Ten team, we're going to get a ton of people because, like, I know SEC is it means more, but I truly think of it with Big Ten. Like, Big Ten fans care about their sports more than a lot of the Pac 12 did. And it's not just football because suddenly I'm seeing, Indiana fans show up in mass to Eugene, Oregon because of a soccer game, a volleyball game. The conference really has been traveling. I've been seeing more and more of it. Like I may have seen more random Indiana or Michigan State fans than I saw Stanford fans when we would play them over the years. So that feels pretty cool, pretty new. I used to only watch Pac-12, and I bet a bunch of Duck fans feel this way. I would only watch Pac-12 games because that was the conference I was in, and suddenly I'm watching Rutgers, Maryland, Northwestern, and better teams like Indiana's been honestly pretty fun. Illinois, Nevada's been up and down, but that's what they do. To tell you the truth, probably the team that I have watched the absolute least is Ohio State this season. Because I just like, what am I gonna learn? They're just kicking butt. They're doing it just about flawlessly, or in the end, it's like, yeah, that was a butt kicking. And I remember I tuned in and I was like, okay, now Ohio State, Iowa, maybe this will reveal something. And it was just kind of the same Ohio State Iowa game we see a lot of times where, the Ohio State side of it, where it's like, it was close for a bit, but then Iowa remembers they don't got any kind of way to score anything. And so
Yeah.
Ohio State's been so impressive that it's probably me not watching them because I have been fearing October 12th and the anxiety that'll come with it.
Well, there's no reason to fear it, Adam. I mean, this is exciting, dude.
It
This
is.
is I still yeah, there's been some surprises like Indiana. I think Nebraska's a lot better than what they've shown. I think Illinois
Yeah.
is a lot better than what I
Yeah.
predicted them to be. But I think that in the end is all going to wash itself out, and there's going to be two Big Ten teams standing there at the end, and it's going to be Oregon and Ohio State, just like we thought at the beginning of the year, and like a lot
Mhm.
of people predicted. And so this game, I think, in a lot of ways, is going to be a lot of fun for not only Oregon fans out there on the West Coast like yourself, who get to welcome in, the Buckeyes into Eugene, Oregon, into what's going to be a ruckus stadium for you guys. I expect it to be great television viewing, and even better for those in attendance. But then I fully expect this to be a precursor of what's going to happen later in the season in Indianapolis, Indiana, when the Big Ten championship's on the line. And so that being said, um, let me ask you this question because you mentioned the Pac-12, and this will be the one off-topic thing I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
The new Pac-12. What does the old Pac-12 members think of this?
Oh man, it is. I just think I think barely anything about it, honestly.
Really?
It just feels like so much a worse version of what the Pac-12 was. I don't think it's getting much respect from the people who left it. Obviously, what do they care about them? But I think overall, I think a lot of us would have felt it would have felt nicer at least if it was just Mountain West and Pac-12 combined. Like just clean, just literally them together. I don't know legally what that would take, probably quite a bit. But that would feel a little cleaner than, it's funny, Oregon State and Washington State, the second the conference blew up, obviously they were upset, but they were really into complaining about like the selfishness of all these teams. Like how could Oregon just abandon us for more money, and blow up a whole conference? But now they're doing the same thing to a lot of these other little historic conferences. So I think that's pretty funny. But overall, I could even imagine buying a Pac-12 gear. Like, I still kind of root for the conference. I mean, is it the same conference if almost every single thing about it is different? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if the same thing happened to the Big Ten, if absolutely everyone was gone except for Rutgers and Northwestern, and then they added 8 other teams.
Bunch of MAC schools.
Yeah, exactly. A bunch of MAC schools and then like a random West Coast team or something like that.
Yeah.
Would you consider that the
It
Big
would
Ten?
no, it's Big Ten light. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's or MAC heavy, however you
Yeah,
want to
MAC
look at
heavy.
it. So Mountain West heavy, I guess. I don't know. So okay, well that's interesting. That's interesting. I thank you for sharing your viewpoint with me on that one. All
Mm.
right, back to the topic at hand here. Okay, so let's talk Oregon a little bit. Um, Started off a little slow this season. In some games that we weren't kind of made everybody's eyebrows raise a little bit. Like, what's up, Oregon? And then you guys turned it on, and so now it looks like you guys are firing on all cylinders again. What is the fans' perspective of this team at this point in the season?
It's one of those things where if expectations were lower, if we weren't building on successful seasons, then a lot of Duck fans would be a lot chiller and be like, "Hey, we're undefeated. We're doing well. We seem to be improving. That's all we need." But when you enter a season with so much hype, whether it's the media or just fans or the program, I should say that, we're Big Ten, we're program.
You're fitting right in now. There you go. You also
uh,
have to call them Washington.
oh, worship! I'll do that just because it'll piss them
Washington.
off.
They
That
don't
sounds
like that, by
great.
the way. I asked them.
I love the state. I'll say the state of Washington, just
There
to
you go.
like, yeah. That's great. I love it. Definitely gonna start doing that. But when you enter the hype of just like, hey, this could be the truly the season where Oregon wins it all, then I mean, and justifiably so, because let's talk about this early season stretch. So we're going against Idaho. Yes, that is FCS Idaho. Everyone was looking for this to be a complete warm up. The score finishes 24-14, and in the fourth quarter, it was a one-score game.
Mm.
Now, I can explain away all of this pretty easily, certainly with the first result, which is what we were doing early on due to injury on offensive line, which we do have good depth on in offensive line, but we had 2 key injuries, which made us have to shift it around, which meant our center, Poncho, was moving over to right guard, and then we had a walk-on, basically snapping specialist in that center role. And if you go back and watch the highlights, you will see Idaho, who I'm not going to hype them. They actually are a pretty good team. They are so much lower level that I'm going to really not pump them up. But they had a decent enough D-line and were just very aggressive, and our O-line absolutely stunk. And our defense, I think, has been good just about all season, but our O-line was getting pushed around by this FCS team. Same with the next week against Boise State, the first half, basically the exact same thing. Then we get Nishad. Instead, we rotate what our O-line is doing. We bring in Nishad Strother, who's like a veteran, much better player. We take out the walk-on. We put on Poncho back to his center role, and suddenly everything looked much better. Suddenly Dylan Gabriel had time. The running game drastically improved. We still had to rally back because we had 2 fumbles in the second half against Boise State. That's why that game was so close. That and because potential Heisman candidate
Yeah,
Ashton Jeanty.
over 1,000 yards already. Good
Yeah, and
night.
he could have more too if he wanted. Like they're resting him in the second halves now. He's crazy, but so that and then by the time we're hitting Oregon State, which we won 49-14, that is the O-line we're rocking with, and it is, I believe, no longer a problem. Like, will Ohio State's defensive front have success against it? We'll find out this Saturday, but looks drastically improved immediately once we found our true rotation. But the funny thing is, and this is where Duck fans are right now. So there's kind of been every week, even the weeks that we looked really good, like against Oregon State or against UCLA 34-13, or against Michigan State 31-10, all of those games in which we looked a lot better, there has been a major problem, or at least 1 or 2 hideous plays that have altered the whole game and just leave a bad taste in your mouth. Like, I'm sure there's plenty of times throughout the years as an Ohio State fan where you're like, yeah, we won 50-14, but that pick in the second quarter,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and there's serious issues. The thing that makes me happy is they're not so far reoccurring issues. Like Dylan Gabriel threw 2 picks against Michigan State, both in the red zone, both really just like you are such a veteran player. You're on track to be the most veteran player in college football, like the most starts, and that was a freshman move right there, And he also threw a pick 6 right before the end of the half against UCLA. That game could have easily been like 41-6 or something without that hideous one. Like I said, 2 fumbles in the second half against Boise State. So it's not like every single week, it's not like we have the same problem that's damning the team, but it's some problem that's made it so every win has been a little unsatisfying. But but now we're playing against Ohio State, and the only result that matters is either it's going to be a
Right.
win or a loss,
Right.
no matter how
Right.
ugly or good it looks.
So let's talk about Dylan Gabriel a little bit.
Mm.
He was one of the more important offseason transfer portal acquisitions by any team in college football. Had tremendous success at Oklahoma last year. Goes to Eugene, Oregon, and has Heisman like expectations placed on him by some people in the national media. Looking at his numbers so far this year, his completion percentage is it's fantastic. Last time I looked, I think it was like 78% or something close to that.
Something like that, yeah.
It's like 77.8% or something. So he's almost completing 8 out of every 10 passes, and it was even higher than that before the competition stepped up slightly in the last couple weeks. Um, is Dylan Gabriel like where's the fan base's pulse on him right now? Kind of the same way as the team is, like good but a little unsatisfying because of those interceptions, or ride and die with this guy. He's our man.
Well, probably a combo of the two. Depends on who you ask, especially because you again are coming off like it's so silly, but like we're going against Michigan State. Like we could do nothing wrong for a lot of that game, except again 2 interceptions in the red zone in the first half. I mean, it ended up we were up 21-0 at the halftime. So did it matter in the end? I guess not. But in the back of everyone's head, especially when you're seeing this week 5 after you've kind of fixed the problems of the O line, or week 6, after like we got great receiving talent and everything seems to be like, okay, now we can judge this quarterback. He makes 2 very silly mistakes. I think that is rubbing some people the wrong way, but that completion percentage, and some people are going to take this as like a negative thing, like they did against Bo Nix. The entire offense is orchestrated around driving down the field efficiently. And a lot of that is going to end up like, your bubble screens, like an RPO, quick completion, quick slant. Not that he's afraid to shoot, like, throw downfield, but a lot of it is orchestrated around like, let's march down this field. We don't necessarily need the big play. And Bo Nix had that exact thing where his completion percentage was just insane, like record setting. And it was because a lot of it was behind the sticks or just a sure thing. And I think in my opinion, less knowledgeable Duck fans get really upset because they're, on their 5th beer and they just want to see a 70-yard touchdown, which, hey, I do too. But I do think that efficiency is the key best part. Now, if you end an efficient drive with a pick 6, it wasn't very efficient, was it?
Right.
I'm hoping that's not that's not going to be a reoccurring thing. I definitely imagine that like in every single category, the talent level is about to go up on our opponent playing against Ohio State. So little things that he got away with, maybe a little late pass or an underthrown pass, that can turn into a devastating thing against the Buckeyes. So I'm sure many Duck fans are very worried, but I think the fans in the know are also appreciating that all the little things he seems to be doing right, and we're hoping the big things were just a little fluke in games that we ended up winning big anyways.
So let's look at some of the other big name on the offensive side of the ball. Jordan James, 88
Mhm.
carries, 552 yards. He's averaging 6.3 yards per carry. He's got 5 tutties on the season, and then the guy who I was drooling over all offseason, Tez Johnson, 43 receptions already, 395 yards. That's 9.2 yards per catch, 5 touchdowns there as well. And then Trey Holden, man, out of the blue, 19. You got another impressive receiver to go along with Johnson. 19 catches, 274, 14.4 yards per catch, 3 touchdowns. Is this offense incredibly balanced? Is that one of the secrets to your success offensively?
I think that's certainly the goal, like it needs to be balanced in order for this efficiency to come through. And I believe now that this O line, and I mean, I'm saying all these things like, oh, we fixed the O line, we fixed the O line. We fixed the O line, air quotes, against Boise State and Michigan State. We're about to, and Oregon State. I forget about them all the time. But we're about to see, like the real test now. Like, okay,
Right.
this is top tier talent you're going against. Did we fix this O line? Because the first 3 weeks, every team was just going blitz, 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 and it was working really well. So if that O line is doing well, and Jordan James just had his best rushing game. I mean, you could say of his short career, but definitely of the season against Michigan State. He seemed to be having a lot more, or we in general seem to be having a lot more success with the explosive runs. I honestly think that would be huge for us, is if we can get that going a little bit more, even if it's something like a 15-yard gain or something like that. Because, I mean, I think some of the criticism on Dylan Gabriel, too, is just because if your O-line's not playing well and your running game's not working so well, then suddenly that QB has to be just about perfect for anything to work out. So getting him, I mean, it's what we all believe. If the running game's going to help out the QB, and I do think Jordan James is a great running back. His numbers aren't quite what I reflect him to be this season, but that's because of the, aforementioned problems with the O-line that I'm hoping are fixed. Trayshawn Holden has been very nice to see. We've always been wanting to live up to like what we believed he could be, and it looks like that. Tez Johnson, some Duck fans are just being like, oh yeah, people are just locking on. They said this about Bo Nix too. Obviously they're brothers, but it was like people are locking on to Tez Johnson too much. If he can get you what he's getting you, then yeah, throw it to him. Make the other team stop that because
Yeah,
he's doing great.
that sounds like Ohio State fans last year going, Kyle McCord won't look at anybody but Marvin Harrison Jr. It's like, can you blame him? Like,
Yeah.
pretty
Oh my
pretty
gosh.
good wide receiver.
Yeah,
So
that's not a bad game plan,
yeah,
definitely.
so that's funny. Let's flip over to the other side of the ball real fast and talk to me a little bit about some of the players who are leading this defense this season.
Yeah, well, I believe if we're gonna beat Ohio State, it's most likely gonna be because our defensive front played just out of their minds and muddied up enough of the Ohio State offense for Oregon to hold on to a lead. Because I have really appreciated some of the players I've seen. I mean, Jordan Birch, he came over from South Carolina last season. He was dinged up for quite a bit of the season, but whenever he hits the field, he has been a threat. Like he has really been going after QBs hard. Also, Jamari Caldwell, he was a transfer from Houston. He's been huge, both like actual, literally, and metaphorically on the field. Like he's just such a big man that can move way faster than you would expect. Mateo Uyangalele, I mean, we all know he's related to. He's been developing very quickly behind those two, making a big difference on the edge. And it's been nice that our true captain, Jeffrey Bassa, who's our inside linebacker, he was injured for a couple of weeks too. Against Michigan State, he said, "I'm finally 100% back," so it stands to reason he should be totally good to go. He's been very important for what we're trying to do, like this mint defense, which is mainly focused on stopping the passing game and then having these big guys be athletic and big enough up front to handle the running game should that become a problem. Another player who I've been very excited about, this is probably more of a fan favorite, Bryce Betcher. He's an inside linebacker as well. Now, he has actually been drafted, I forget by who, but to play baseball. Like,
Oh,
he
okay.
is ready to play Major League Baseball whenever he's done with this football
Is he
thing.
playing the baseball team there in Oregon too?
Yeah, he was
Oh,
great.
nice.
He was
Two-sport
a center
athlete.
fielder. Yeah, two-sport
Cool.
athlete. He was a walk-on, technically. I think he had a scholarship for baseball, so he didn't need one for football. I don't know. He's got that like neck, the neck roll or whatever,
Yeah.
that old
Old
school
school.
style. So you'll recognize him. And he's just someone who's just constant energy, has been huge. So that's who I'm most confident. I think those will be the game changers if this game's gonna go well. If it's a game where it's like, okay, it's all on Oregon secondary because we just can't get to the quarterback. I like our secondary. I may not like our secondary against Ohio State's insanely good receivers, especially if you got time, because that talent is nuts.
Interesting. So what's like the base defense that you guys run, like a 4-2-5 type of base, and kind of maybe talk schematically what you think Oregon's going to do defensively.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, like Dan Lanning, he is like the child of Kirby Smart, is what it feels like. Like
Okay.
that is what he's been attempting to build, like this mint front defense, who's like like you're gonna see a lot of like four guys in the front, but really it's that kind of thing where it's like an outside like it's kind of hybrid the position.
Gotcha.
A lot of the blitzes have just been coming from the big guys in front. I haven't seen a whole lot of like safeties screaming down the field or trickery even. Like I truly think the full idea is to stop those quick passes on the inside, which back in the day, like 10 years ago, that would just like it took a while for college football to catch up with like how do you stop these quick slants is what it
Hmm.
feels like that's what this team is built on hopefully doing, especially with like really athletic quick linebackers who can potentially cover some of the pass and do the run is the goal. Like you're kind of giving up a little bit of beef on those guys, but you're hoping that they can do both and that the D line is good enough that they can stop those gaps and such. They've been doing pretty well. Like Jonty got his, but he's getting his against anybody, and so we've been feeling better and better against that performance. So I do believe the goal line the goal will be to just like attack through the ends and make it so Ohio State is kind of funneled into running the ball and just having to run the ball because there ain't anything open downfield because there's not enough time to get it downfield.
Gotcha.
That's a lot of college defenses, but I do think Dan Lanning's actually got his guys there. Like there were so many seasons where it just felt like, yeah, we got like 5-star talent. We got Noah Sewell playing linebacker, but he just is not looking it right now, despite having great talent. And it's because he's more of a classic Big Ten linebacker that was just like ready to just take someone's head off, and just like destroy the run. And Lanning was going for more of like a tweener, like Abasa, who played switched from I believe he was a secondary player, and due to like depth concerns, he was a linebacker, but now is really transformed into like the perfect body type for what we want over the years. So that is the goal. And I think over Ohio State, if I were to look at that offense, it's like I'm certainly more afraid of dying by the pass than the run. Not that Ohio State's got a bad running game at all. It's just I think in my head, if I'm seeing Oregon get blown out, it's just through extreme receiver talent in my head.
Gotcha. All right. What about offensively? Like, obviously, I know we talked a little bit about how that you guys would like to, be balanced in the pass and the run, but going up against this Ohio State defense, and I know you said you haven't watched us play a lot, but they're going to be very, they're going to probably play a 4-2-5 mostly, our
Mhm.
base defense. Um, Basically, they want to force you into third downs a lot and and check your pulse on making sure that you're going to be successful and patient enough as you meticulate the ball down the field that you don't make a mistake type of thing.
Mhm.
So bend but don't break. I kind of is the philosophy a lot of people use. And at
Mhm.
times Ohio State this year has been very opportunistic defensively, causing a lot more turnovers. And so I think a little bit of watching the game last Friday night between Michigan State and you guys can be a little bit of fool's gold because we look at that and think, he's going to make all these turnovers. And that might not necessarily be the case here. So, how do you think Oregon is going to try to attack this Ohio State defense, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I mean, I think they're going to be a little risk adverse, which does scare me because I don't know. Maybe I'm still thinking about that, like, still thinking of us as too small of a program. Because in my head, it's like, oh crap, we're playing Ohio State. We need to just do, like no risks, just play like this, little by little by little, like kind of do a Vanderbilt thing or something. Hope that something falls in your lap. Like, we don't have the horses to compete. I think if we're gonna win, you gotta play like, yeah, let's take a shot. I don't think that's Dan Lanning's style very often in
Mm,
big games, like when we played against Washington, which is, drastically different team than Ohio State, but with a team with NFL talent or huge stakes on the line. It still seems to be the same, and also whether it's a Will Stein offense or Kenny Dillingham offense. It seems to be we want to plot down the field. Not plot down the field like in Iowa. Like it doesn't have to be like four, like Iowa when it's going well. We don't want to go like 3 to 4 yard run plays over and over in a quick little pass. They
but you're taking what
do
the defense gives you, basically.
taking what the
Yeah.
defense gives. That's why Dylan Gabriel has overall looked pretty solid. Um, and I do think that Will Stein has been really good at playing off of the RPO, showing you, okay, we're going to show you this RPO. This is the look. We did it 2 times this way, but the third time, this guy, instead of, going out wide, is going to, score up field, and then it'll show you something new. That's
Right.
something that Will Stein's been very good at. That's something that Dan Lanning liked doing, like with Kenny Dillingham. I am very intrigued, and I know this is something that a bunch of fans are always like, "Oh, we don't look that good, but we're just holding on to all the good plays for our big
Yeah,
game coming
I
up."
can't
Everyone says
stand
that.
that.
I
Everybody
can't stand
does.
that. I don't, and like we saw it a million times, like a million comments like that.
Yeah,
That being said, it is interesting because you're like, well, if there's any form of that, if there's anything we haven't seen in this offense, this is the game. Who else
right,
would you possibly be holding on for? Like
right.
look at Oregon's schedule. Like this is by far the biggest thing. This would be the biggest win in Lanning's career. Maybe honestly the biggest win in Oregon football history, not including bowl games, maybe even including bowl games. Like genuinely, I remember when we beat you guys back in the day, like a couple years ago.
Right.
I made the case that is, and I still believe it. That was the biggest regular season win in Oregon football history, because like for the stakes, for the team we're playing, it was a way for the ranking on the both. Like and for how many decades Oregon was truly terrible and not sniffing the blue bloods. I think that was the biggest win. So yeah, like I'm horrified, to tell you the truth. But
Do you
yeah.
do you feel this just came to me? I can't believe I didn't have this on my list to ask you. Do you feel like there's going to be any Chip Kelly effect here,
Yeah, that's a good
one
question,
way or
huh?
the other?
Yeah,
Like, because I know it's been so long
yeah.
since he was at Oregon, but he was just at UCLA,
He was,
so
yeah, there was a couple of games. Like I remember the first time he came here with UCLA. I do remember like they were like, "Oh, and here's Chip Kelly." Like I think they showed him on the Jumbotron. And there were more happy claps than boos. There were plenty of boos. But there were more like, "Hey, it's good to see you, man." Like especially cuz they weren't very good that year, so we were happy to see his team. Um, with I know, and it's such a different team he's going against. He knows where all the locker room stuff's gonna be.
yeah.
He knows where everything is. I don't think so. I mean, besides what Chip Kelly's doing right now with Ohio State's offense, which seems to be pretty solid. Maybe he'll like whip out an old vintage like 2010 Oregon run play, like some awesome option play or something like that. That'd be a pretty cutting way for him to kick our butts.
That's
That'd be pretty
funny.
funny. I
That's
don't
funny.
imagine though. I don't know. He's a pretty low key guy.
He is, and I enjoy his dry humor during
Mm.
the press conference. They asked him, "What's the biggest difference between being a coordinator and a head coach?" He goes, when our defense is on the field, I can go use the bathroom."
Yeah,
That was, and he was like dead serious, like dead honest, like
yeah.
the
No,
dry, like here's an honest answer, and
he's a
everybody's
straight
laughing.
shooter. Yeah,
It was kind of funny.
that's
Um,
hysterical.
yeah. All right. So last question. I'm asking you to get your Nostradamus hat out there. So I know it's early. As we interview, it's only Monday night as we do this interview. This will post Wednesday night, but it's only Monday. And if you don't want to give me a score yet, that's fine. But what's your prediction? Like, what do you think's gonna happen?
Ooh, what do I think's gonna happen? The pessimist in me, it just feels like, to take the bias out, I feel like I just go a little bit more negative. I would say I think Ohio State starts off stronger than the Ducks. Like they will score first. I do expect this game to be a bit of a shootout, actually. I do think it'll be a high scoring game. I think Oregon's defense will actually look pretty solid, but Ohio State, whether it's explosive runs, or just like just an unguarded receiver or something like that. I think the explosive plays, though, just the pure talent for Ohio State, will just make it so you're just answering anytime. Um, I do think Oregon will be efficient, and then every once in a while there'll be a play where it's just like, oh, I didn't see that. Like that's a random fumble, or that's a hideous interception, or something like that. But not enough to completely take us out of the game. I don't see this being a blowout either way. I just think both offenses have, like, even if one team is down 2 scores, I just can't imagine holding the lid on either of these offenses for the whole game. Um, that being said, I'm just gonna go with, just because there hasn't been a single game, maybe the Oregon State game, but even then we were having some complaints about our defense in that one. But there hasn't been a single game that's had us go like, yes, this is that national championship caliber Oregon that we've been waiting to see. So because of that, I'm not just gonna say, oh, it'll all show up against Ohio State. Don't worry. Like when it matters most against the hardest competition, it may. I remember when we last played you, we had looked really bad against Fresno State. We were thinking like, holy cow, this is gonna be bad. And Kayvon Thibodeau's hurt. Like I was
Yeah.
like, I truly have no. I think no result would shock me for this game. But to be a pessimist, and because I'm on an Ohio State podcast, I'll say Buckeyes win 38-34. Like I
That
do
is
think.
much more high scoring than I think it's going to be.
All right. Hey, I mean
I
we're in the Big
do.
10. Maybe.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I think this is going to be the type of game where both coaches get a little bit clinched butt on
Yeah.
third downs, and I think both teams defensively are much stronger than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ohio State statistically defensively is fantastic this year. Um, I think we're only giving up an average of what 6 points a game right now.
Mm.
So I I would not be surprised if this game neither team gets in the 30s this game.
Yeah, I could see that.
I really do think that it's going to be a little bit more low scoring than that. If it is a shootout, advantage Ducks, I think.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
here's why. Unpopular opinion, but the opinion that I had in the offseason, and I'm going to stay to it.
Mm.
I think Dylan Gabriel was a bigger get for you guys than Will Howard was for us at quarterback.
Hmm. Yeah, I
So
mean, I'm not necessarily afraid of Will Howard per se, but I'm afraid of the machine that he's, controlling.
you're not
Uh,
afraid of the driver, but you're afraid of the machine that the car
yeah,
he's driving.
exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Mhm.
That's good. That makes sense. Adam, tell everybody if there's an Oregon fan who's jumped into this preview and they enjoy what they're hearing from you, man. Tell everybody where they can find the Quack 12 podcast.
Yeah, so the Quack 12 podcast is available on, well, any podcast platform out
Right.
there. Also on quack12podcast.com. Over on Twitter is when we mainly post our stuff for now, at Quack12 Podcast. And hey, even if you're an Ohio State fan, we talk a lot of crap on all the other Big Ten teams. So.
They do. It's fantastic. And they had by far the most in-depth Big Ten preseason
Oh,
shows that I like hours long, like
yeah. I mean,
every
thanks to
player
you.
on the roster.
Yeah, it's like we're going in the third string linebacker. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us about this walk-on kicker from Australia you guys
Yeah.
got here. So, it was a lot of fun. So Adam, thank you so much for joining us, man. Enjoy this weekend. I have a feeling we will be podcasting together quite a bit
I
over the
hope
next
so.
couple months.
For a Big Ten championship preview, knock on wood.
Yeah,
I hope
and
so.
maybe even in the playoffs, buddy. So you never know.
That's right. Oh my goodness.
Thanks for joining me, Adam.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Eric.
The OHIO podcast is brought to you by Mastermind. Mastermind specializes in 360-degree high-definition mobile video mapping, GIS integration, and traffic safety studies. Mastermind cares about traffic safety and keeping you safe on the roadway. Visit Mastermind at onlinemastermind.com. And thanks, Adam, for being our special guest here at the OHL podcast. Great dude. And man, I tell you, this is going to be a lot of fun, Chris. As Adam has pointed out, there, Oregon has had some. They've had some difficult games. They've had some trials and tribulations at the beginning of the season. They're kind of coming into their own, and they look at us as kind of like the big dog on the block. And so this is a great measuring stick for them. Big time Big Ten game, which sounds odd to say against Oregon going out west. Here's another stat for you, Chris. The only team to travel more than one time zone away from their current location and get a win is Indiana out in Los Angeles against UCLA. No one else has traveled multiple time zones and won.
That changes this weekend, Eric.
Okay.
And it changes, I think, easily this weekend. You don't get me wrong. Oregon, I think, is a very good team. I do think they're a very good team. However, Dylan Gabriel is kind of what I thought he was. The last 2 weeks, when you've seen him under any kind of pressure, 3 picks in the last 2 weeks. Uh, he's undersized, and I just feel like, yes, he's very athletic, but you know what? I don't think he can get it done against a team with the defense that Ohio State brings to the table. You're talking about the number one defense overall in the country right now. And
Some would say we haven't played a very good offense yet.
okay, okay. Now let's take that and look at what Oregon has done and struggled at times. Idaho, they're FCS, aren't they?
hmm They are now. They didn't used to be.
Boise State,
Pretty good football
they're
team.
they're okay. They're
Boise,
not the Boise State that we've seen in the past.
you don't think so?
No,
They have a 1,000-yard rusher on their team right now.
that may be. I just don't think they're as good as they've been in the past, all around. Oregon State,
Not as good as they were last year at all.
no. UCLA, the only thing we know about UCLA is, well, they're in Los Angeles.
And they might be better than Purdue.
Well, there's
They're
there's
bottom.
0-4 high schools that might be better than Purdue.
They're bottom dwellers with Purdue right now. There's no doubt.
Michigan State, very good defensive team. If they could get out of their own way, their offense would probably be pretty good too. But they got a serious turnover problem at Michigan State. I think Ohio State is the most complete team they're going to face all year by far. The best defense, the best offense, and you look back at some of these scores, Eric. These were not runaway games by Oregon in any manner. I mean, the biggest win was the 49-14 over Oregon State. Outside of that, 3 points versus Boise, 10 points versus Idaho. Uh, Michigan State, yeah, it was 31-10, but that game was a lot closer than it should have been. I mean, Michigan State turned over the ball, 41 times? I mean, come on, how can you only come up with 31 points in that situation? I just feel like
Ohio
Oregon
State
is.
only came up with 35.
That's true. But I don't think Oregon or Michigan State turned over the ball, twice versus us, I
3.
believe. Was it three? I think they had, what did they have, 5 versus Oregon? Something to that effect. It was pretty awful. So I look at this as Oregon's got definitely the home field advantage, no doubt about it. They've got that fact that they don't have to travel across 3 time zones or 2 time zones to get where they're going. But I just feel like Ohio State is a much better overall team. At the beginning of the season, I thought this game was going to be closer than I think it is now. If Ohio State goes out and starts fast on offense and can hold Oregon on their first defensive possession, I really believe this is at least a 2-score game.
I'm going to make a statement, and this is where my headspace is now as we inch our way closer to Saturday. We're recording this on Tuesday night. We recorded the interview with Adam on Monday, and you're watching this on Wednesday. And here's where my headspace is currently on Tuesday. This game for me is the Will Howard game. I think our defense is going to do just fine. I think they're going to hold Oregon to under their season average, probably somewhere in the teens to 20s. Will Howard, are we going to win this game because of Will Howard? Will we win this game despite Will Howard? Or will we lose this game because of Will Howard? That's where my headspace
I,
is. I don't know that we necessarily have to have Will Howard win the game for us, but I know this much. He
he can't
can't
lose it.
lose it for us. If he loses it for us, we're in trouble. Now we have some serious questions about Will Howard, about the decisions that were made in the offseason, and where we go from here. But if he goes out there, Chris, and he wins this football game by having his best game of the season and looks really good, it's all breaks off, baby. It's full go. We're heading to Indiana. We're heading to Indianapolis. I don't know if there's a team in the Big Ten that can beat us.
Yeah, and I look at it like this, Eric. You said he can't lose the game for us, and I agree with that. This is what Will Howard has to do: is go out there, be efficient, not turn over the ball, and like Ryan Day likes to say, make the routine plays routinely. He does that.
Oregon might force Will Howard's hand Saturday. Meaning this. I think they're going to put him in a place where he's not felt pressure this year. Let's face it. The offensive line's done a fantastic job
Mhm,
of blocking, and he's not been asked to go out there and win us the football game. He's been asked to not wreck the car,
mhm.
right? I don't know that formula is going to win us a national championship. At some point, we've gotten to this discussion before on this very show. In fact, it was this past weekend. Will Howard to Craig Krenzel comparisons.
Mhm.
At one point, a couple points during that 2002 season, Craig Krenzel had to go win the football game, and he did.
Mhm.
At some point, Will Howard is going to have to go win a football game. I think Oregon wants to find out if he can do that. I think
I,
defensively they are going to force Will Howard to beat them with his arm.
and you know what? He can do that, but I think what has to happen is Ryan Day and Chip Kelly have to set him up for success in doing so. Yes, I do think we try to stretch the field a few times, but Eric, you and I both know that is not his strongest point of his
It
game.
hasn't been to this point.
You've got to use those slants across the middle. You've got to take what the defense gives you, whether it's something that running backs in the flats, whether it's a slant across the middle, whether it's using the tight ends. You've got to take what the defense gives you. And you're right. We're going to see how good Will Howard is. Can he go through his progressions? Can he not just lob it up there? By God, for the love, Will Howard, throw the ball on time. Your receivers should not have to, as I think Corey put it on Sunday, have time to do their taxes while they wait on the pass to arrive. You know what? You've got to get your timing down there.
Yeah, yeah.
You've
This is
got to
to
hit these
me.
guys in stride. You got receivers out there running 23 miles an hour, Eric. If you hit these guys in stride, no one is catching them. It's over.
Yeah. Listen, to me, Oregon's going to score some points in this game. I don't think our defense goes out there and shuts them
No,
out to 7 points. Like,
no.
come on. Like this team, what's the most points we've given up this year? 14 to Marshall,
Mhm.
right? Everybody else has been single digits or nothing, right? Okay. There is there is a very real possibility this team breaks 20. Three scores.
I don't
17,
think so.
21, 24.
No, yeah, I got him just under the 20s, but yeah,
Okay. Let's say the defense holds them to 3 touchdowns, 21 points. Is that enough to win us the football game?
it should be.
It should be, but
With this
will it
offense, it
be?
should be.
See, that's why I'm not concerned about the defense. Like I think the defense I think the defense is going to do a good enough job to make sure we're in this football game. That's why I say this is the Will Howard game. It's on him and let's see what he's really got and let's see how much he's learned of this Chip Kelly offense and go out there and hey man, again, can we run the ball and can we establish the line of scrimmage? Can we beat them? Can we beat their defensive line off the line of scrimmage and just manhandle them like we did in the national championship game? Like if that's the case, run the dang ball, right?
Yeah,
Run baby run. Or like I mean, we got two horses. Put a saddle on Travion and
I'll tell
Quinshon
you what. We got three
and ride them.
horses. The third one just not didn't get much time right now.
So, but I don't know that that's what's going to happen. I really think Oregon is going to be like, no, Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, we see your talent. We're not going to let you beat us. We're coming after Will Howard. And they're going to be up on the line of scrimmage. They're going to be rushing. They're going to be
But if you're
trying to
gonna,
get in the backfield and really disrupt things. And Will Howard has got to be under control and be the man who says, I can read this defense. And if no one's open, I'm going to take that lane and run, baby.
yeah,
And
and the other thing is if they're gonna run 7 or 8 up into the box, that's where you've got to use again. You got to use those little screen passes. You got to use play action. Yeah, get out there, use play action. Of course, the key to that is getting a good couple runs to start the game. But use your play action, use your RPO, and then flip it out to the running backs. Flip it out to the wide receivers on a quick slant or even a wide receiver screen. Which I hate wide receiver screens. We know I hate wide receiver screens. But you know what? If they're going to run that many guys up in the box, use your jet sweeps as a run. There's ways to get around it if they're going to run 7 or 8 up into the box.
we'll see. I think Oregon is going to be. Remember this: the last time Ryan Day faced Dan Lanning across the sideline, he was a part of the defensive staff at Georgia when they took Marvin Harrison out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So that being
And you know
said,
what? That was probably we've well documented it. As much as I was ticked off about that game, that may have been the best game Ryan Day ever called
it
up to the
was.
injury.
And if you remember, he was uber aggressive downfield in the passing game. I don't know
We don't have C.J. Stroud.
if Will Howard can do that. That's why this is a huge Will Howard game for me, man. That's what this boils down to. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching our preview. Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let's have a discussion between now and Saturday's big game.
Eric, score predictions.
Oh, what am I doing? What do you got?
You know what? I like our defense. I do like our offense. I'm going to say 35-17. And Eric, I predicted defensive score in the mix.
Ooh, okay. That would change things a lot. Chris, you know what I did going into this season.
Mm-hmm.
about this game.
Mm-hmm.
I predicted we would lose this game.
You did.
And then I said that we would beat them in Indianapolis. Here's the thing. If we lose this game, I don't know that we would make it to Indianapolis.
Well, I don't think we would.
And the way Indiana's playing, the way Nebraska and Rutgers have been playing, um, Penn State, there might be several one-loss teams when this thing's all said and done. And so I'm going to renege on my prediction because I don't know that we can lose this game. I think if Oregon loses this game, they have a better opportunity to getting to Indiana with one loss than Ohio State does.
I agree.
And so because of that, I'm going with an Ohio State 27, Oregon 24. Close. It's close. Am I right? Am I wrong? I don't know. I know this much. No, we're not going to see a blowout. It's just not. That one's not in the cards. Chris, your 35-17 is the closest thing to a blowout I think it's possible.
I
I
agree.
really do. Let us know your prediction down in the comments section below, as well as letting us have this great discussion as we get ready for the big game on Saturday. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching us. Again, please hit the thumbs up button. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please go ahead, hit that subscription button, man. That helps this channel out so much. Even if you're an Oregon fan, let us know your thoughts, man. We'd like to hear what you're thinking about this game going into the game on Saturday. You guys got home field advantage. How much does that play into this equation? We didn't really even talk about that, but maybe you as an Oregon fan would like to discuss that. We'd like to hear from you as well. Enjoy the game, everybody. This is great. This is why we were excited about bringing on USC, Oregon, Washington, UCLA games like this. It just makes the Big Ten so much more national, if you will, coast to coast. And this has a huge prize fight feel to it. 2 versus 3. This is a big time game. Enjoy the heck out of everybody. We will be back Sunday night to talk about it. We also have our call-in show tomorrow night. If you want to call in and talk about it, Oregon Duck fans, 8 o'clock Eastern. That's 5 p.m. Pacific. If you want to jump on our YouTube channel and discuss it, you can call in and we can talk about it tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, man. So, any last words, Chris?
Don't forget, tomorrow night we're trying our contest for the first time.
That's
Best
right.
caller is going to walk away with a prize.
Beautiful. I'd hate to see you ship that thing all the way out to Oregon, but maybe that'll happen. I don't
Hey,
know.
you know what? If they got the best caller, we'll do it.
Sounds great, guys. Thank you so much, everybody. Till next time, be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH. OH!
I-O!
Go Bucks.